You're a SaaS founder, you've built something solid, but growth still feels harder than it should. Most SaaS companies don't fail because of bad tech. They fail because they've never become a must-have to the right customer. This podcast is here to change that. I'm Ton Dobbe, and this is the Remarkable SaaS Podcast. Every week I talk to founders in the trenches, facing friction, making bold moves, and building companies that last. We dig into real choices around focus, positioning, customer pool, team alignment, the things that separate forgettable software from the ones that people can't live without. No hype, no hacks. Just honest conversations to help you build something that people would miss if it was gone. If your SaaS should be indispensable but isn't yet, this is your podcast. Let's get into it. The guest of our podcast this week is Dean Mathews, founder and CEO at OnTheClock.
The biggest one for me is connecting their work to the actual value that's delivered to a customer and showing them that their work actually matters. That is gold.
This is Dean. We dig into how we build a company 170,000 people rely on every month. By asking a question, most SaaS founders never make their primary metric. Are we actually helping people? You'll hear how that one question shaped everything. Who he hired, how his team works, and why 7 to 8% of his customers arrive because someone else told them to. Because when helping people is your North Star, and not just a value on the wall, your team feels it, your customers feel it, and no competitor can replicate it. Well, hi Dean. Thank you for making the time available today and being the guest of our podcast.
Thank you, Ton. It was very great having you. I really appreciate it.
Good. Well, I mean, the topic is one dear to my heart because at the end I've been in your game, not as a CEO, but as a company, as a product owner, both on the product marketing and product strategy side for products that you're building, timesheets and payroll and these type of things. So brings back memories. Your history with the company you founded, OnTheClock, goes back a long time ago.
Long time, yes.
Yeah, 2004. But before we start talking about your company, what drives you? What gives you energy as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so my energy, it really comes from two places. One is I love working with people, building people up, whether it's our team, we have a team of 25 now, or if it's our customers. But I really just like just contributing to people's lives in a meaningful way, whether that's through a piece of software that we wrote, like our product, or if it's just internally helping people navigate their careers and move up into the right. So that would be number one. But the second one, which is extremely important to me, and that is just doing something that actually has an effect on the world. I mean, if I go back, I've had dozens of different projects and different kind of side businesses and such, but they all center around providing value to somebody and helping somebody out and really making a difference in the world. So those are really the two things that drive and push me. And, they drove and pushed me 30 years ago and they still do today.
Good. Well, funny enough, the podcast was called for a long time Tech Entrepreneurs on a Mission podcast.
Oh, really?
It has this analogy in there. But what I read between the lines is at the end that you measure your success by the impact you help other people create. And I think
correct.
That is a very important mindset to have as an entrepreneur, either as a leader, because those are the people that are dependent on you and value you for what you do. And then value will come your way in other ways. Really good.
Agreed. Yeah, no, it's actually a funny thing. Not funny, but so our primary metric nowadays at OnTheClock is MAU, monthly active users. So we're trying to measure how many people we're helping in a month, and that's what we use as our primary gauge.
I'll come back to that later because I got a question on the metrics and how that changed over time.
Sure.
Making the bridge now to your company, you started it in 2004, but it wasn't really the thing that you started doing day to day. That lasted about 10 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, so 2004, technically 2000, late 2003, probably December is when
Yeah.
the idea sparked. Um, 2004 is when I pretty much launched early, like probably Marchish with On the
Yeah.
Clock. But yeah, it really just started with an idea that I wanted to help people. I was sitting at the kitchen story table. I've told it 1,000 times, but I was sitting at the kitchen table in my house and I was reading through these accounting forums and I just noticed this trend of these small business owners and these accountants and CPAs. They all were looking for a time tracking system that was easy and reliable. And, I wasn't in the time tracking world, but I was a software developer, an engineer, and an entrepreneur. And I'm like, I'm going to build that for them. So, really, kind of naively, I kind of started out and, within about a month or two, On the Clock launched. And, it was one of several products and companies I had at the time. And for about 10 years, like you had just referenced, it was really a passion project of mine.
Yeah.
So I had several other things. My main gig was consulting. I was a consultant, so I'd go to I had about a dozen or so companies here in the Metro Detroit area. I'd write software for whatever they needed, MRP, inventory control, accounting systems. But the side project, which was On the Clock, lasted about 10 years. And then about 10-ish years ago, I just couldn't ignore it anymore. It was making money, it was gaining a lot of traction. There were more and more people using it, and really just made a decision to kind of rehome my other projects, my other business and other clients and focus 100% on the clock. And that was, yeah, it was a little over, yeah, about 10 years ago now. So, yeah, that's how it started. It was just a passion project. It
Yeah.
wasn't, I was hoping it would succeed, but it wasn't really built to be some big, enormous business, but it really turned out to be pretty awesome. So yeah, that was the origin story. And fast forward to today, we're at 25 people and we serve about 170,000 people a month. That's about
Wow.
16,000 small businesses here in the United States, mostly in the
Right.
United States. So yeah, that's the quick story of how it started.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask like what conversation triggered it, and you got your kitchen table story there. But is what fascinates me because I mean I know timesheets, and I also know that, and from my own history with timesheet, that it sort of never is. Yeah, there's so many different ways you can do timesheet,
Yeah.
and possibly your success has come from just focusing on one particular segment of the market, which is small businesses. What makes timesheet so hard, and why did you choose that segment of small businesses?
Yeah, it honestly goes a lot back to that original post that I was looking at. These were small business owners, CPAs. They were kind of going back and forth and really
Yeah,
complaining is what they were doing. Kind of asking each other for help. They couldn't find anything, and I was in the consulting world, so my consulting customers were all small businesses. So I had a lot of experience just working with mostly SMBs, a little bit more on the S side, that maybe 10 to 50 employee range. And I knew the small cut, the small business segment. I was one of the owners. I knew who they were. I talked to them, and I just really saw that need. And back when it started, 22 years ago now. I'm showing my age here, but um, there really wasn't much on the market, and they were all just like, there's nothing here for us, help us with
yeah,
it. And
yeah,
so I just built it for them. And the main thing with choosing them was one, there's a lot of really small businesses out there, so the TAM is really big. Nowadays there's 33 million SMBs. Back 20 years ago it wasn't quite as many, but there were still millions.
yeah,
So it was a big target. This was when SaaS was pretty much like not even a word. Like we used to call it multi-tenant. Like
yeah.
SaaS wasn't a word back 20 years ago. It wasn't an acronym.
Yeah, I know, I know.
So I just really started it and sought to really focus on those SMBs. There was a lot of them out there, and that was a really winning combination. The other thing we did too, or I did too, we made it industry agnostic, really. So didn't focus on construction or medical, really just tried to keep it as agnostic as possible. And that's been a huge lever so far. Even
Yeah.
now, our customer base is very diverse. We definitely have some ones that are kind of on the larger side, but we have anywhere from construction to small, to medical offices to we warehousing and trucking. What trucking company is one of our biggest customers. So
Yeah.
yeah, they're all over the board. Yeah, I love the diversity.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. And of course, you're talking about 10 there as well. And it shows, right? 16,000 customers,
Yeah.
170,000 monthly users, which typically pays out to about 10 average users per customer, which is SMB. Um, if you go back to 2004 and then fast forward to the moment you said, okay, now it's serious. What if what made the traction go up in that time? Was there anything specific that you did that made the traction reach a point where you say, okay, now I can actually live from it?
Yeah, yeah. So, as I said, it started really as a passion project. It was a side project, if you will. But there was, I had that, and I had like one or two other similar, they weren't really in the same space, but similar type projects, SaaS projects. But on the clock, I just always had this like special love for it, I guess you might say. And so even though I was still a full-time consultant, helping these other couple dozen small businesses in my area, not with time tracking, they were just
Yeah,
different types of applications they needed that I wrote. But I just had this love for it. And I always, every week, generally, I'd always do a little more work to the product. I'd talk to customers. I didn't do the best talking to customers back then, but I talked to enough to get the information I needed. And I just had this kind of passion for it. And I
mhm,
just kept building. I was very persistent for like a decade, right?
yeah,
And I think, that's one of the big things that a lot of entrepreneurs are forgetting is that big things take time, and
yeah,
that's a real thing. You can accelerate some things. We got AI, I get it. We can move fast. But when you're dealing with people, things don't happen as fast as you want them to
yeah,
sometimes. So having patience, being diligent, and having the consistency over time is really what makes, well, I don't care if you're in technology or you're in construction, it's
yeah,
really what makes the difference. So consistency and just continuing to be persistent was the biggest superpower I had with On the
yeah.
Clock.
What drove the growth? Was that pure word of mouth?
So we started out with a little teeny bit of paid. When I say teeny bit, I mean like $500 at most. But after that, it was all really two things, SEO. So, back 20 years ago, SEO was a lot different, but I
Yeah,
learned how to do it. And SEO, we got really good in the rankings. So we were top of the top 10 links, for most of our keywords. But word of mouth was another huge one. We have done some polls of where customers found us, the questions you answer when you sign up. And it was a few years back now, but we had a significant percentage of people coming from, a friend or a coworker or an employee from a new employee recommended us. And that was it was in the single digits, but it was like 7 or 8%. That's
yeah,
significant.
yeah.
So, word of mouth is like really your best form of advertising. So,
It is.
we still get that today. A friend told me, or an employee from that used you at a previous company, my new employee told me about you guys. We hear it a
Yeah,
lot still.
yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, you're triggering here one of the traits in my book, The Remarkable Effect. Trait number six: remarkable software companies create fans, not customers. And this
Yes.
is, yeah, the thing that drives it, and actually what's the result of it. Going back then to that early stage, to the point where you decided, okay, let's now make a business out of this.
Yes.
What has been an early decision that you took that's been a really important thing for where you are today? Is there anything you
So
can
I would
specifically spot?
Yeah, I probably the biggest decision that I made, and this was actually a relatively hard decision. Um, in the beginning, that first 10 years, I was pretty dead set on not having a team. I did not want to have employees. I did not want to deal with that. That's what I thought. I had been kind of conditioned, I guess you might say, for about 20 years. I'm a pretty social person. I'm very likable. I love people. I love talking. But working with several dozen small businesses, I saw a lot of really bad cultures. These were my clients, my consulting clients. So I had a couple dozen of those, and I saw like these fights, these people, the people in the front, the CEOs, the owners, and the people out back, the hourly workers and such. They were always fighting. They hated each other. The people up front thought the people out back didn't care about work. They were just always late. And, the people out back thought this owners were just lazy. They were in meetings and golfing all day. They weren't working. And I saw this culture that almost like made me anti-team. Like I didn't want people. Um,
Yeah.
but then, it got to the point to where I really had to overcome that. And I'm so happy I did because now, like I'm a team person. I'm a team builder. I went from not wanting a team to just literally love building teams. So it is literally my passion, Ton. I just love
Yeah.
it. And so that was probably the biggest decision and biggest hurdle that I had to come over, jump over. It was probably like 10, 12 years ago now.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I would not have made that mental flip, we would not be anywhere where we're at today. Yeah,
Yeah.
one of my favorite quotes is if you want to go fast, go alone. If you
Yeah.
want to go far, go together.
Exactly.
And yeah, and I love it now. Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah. Anything specifically you learned about what it really takes to not only hire maybe the best team, but also keep the team. That's actually it creates a sort of a compounding effect. People talk about how do you call that? Discretionary effort, that type of
Yeah.
effect.
Yeah,
What?
for me, I'm a huge believer in a good workplace culture, and I don't mean that in your typical, corporate CEO culture thing. Like we really live it. Yeah, so we have 7 values and we set those about 7 years ago. And when we're bringing new people on board, I sit in on almost all, at least one final interview. And I'm specifically looking to make sure that they fit inside of our culture. Passion for people is our first one. Being a doer, delivering excellence, come as you are. Like all these values are what shape our culture. And so
Yeah,
for me, like if you have a team of people that are behind you that believe in the mission and that the biggest one for me is connecting their work to the actual value that's delivered to a customer and showing them that their work actually matters. That like is gold. Get that team to build the momentum, to get everybody moving in the right direction, and to have everybody in a truly good, proper culture. Not
yeah,
the quote business culture that a lot of people talk about.
yeah,
That's a big deal. And I
yeah.
think that goes way farther than most people think.
Exactly. I think that last point that you made is the essence here. Connect your work to customer value, and if you do that
Hmm.
right, everybody can make that connection point. Whether you're in, of course, whether you're in development or in support, which is the logical connection possibly, but even if you're in finance or in any other department that doesn't really have a customer connection, still you're making an impact for a customer,
You
and
are,
that's
like
yeah,
one example I use all the time is like we have software developers, right? So these guys are sitting there, they're working and building product, but a lot of times the dev team is a little bit more like in a silo. Their heads
yeah,
down working, building product, building new experiences for the customer. So they're not talking to customers, but what we like to do is, let's say they just built out a feature, and we release it, and we always test and measure everything, right? So we will test and measure it, but then once that feature or whatever the developers built is active, we go in and we show everybody, look at what people are using this for. You built this feature, now we have 10,000 people benefiting from it.
Yeah,
We'll look at the data, we'll look at the quotes, we'll look at the customer reviews, and you can make that connection back to the one developer that built that feature, and they're like, yeah, I did that. It's a big deal.
exactly.
You got to make a big deal out of it.
Let me make a small interruption here. Dean just said something that sounds simple, but most founders never actually do it. He told us that OnTheClock's primary metric is monthly active users. Not revenue, not churn, not NPS, monthly active users. Because that number answers the question he cares about most. How many people are we actually helping this month? Most companies track MAU to see if the line goes up. Then tracks it to know if people's lives are actually getting better. The same metric, completely different question behind it. And that difference shapes everything. What gets built, who gets hired, and how the team thinks about their work. And this is what remarkable software companies do. They turn customers into fans, then master the art of curiosity, and then they offer something valuable and desirable. Want to master these traits as well? Simply read my book. I've made the electronic version available for free. Just visit theremarkableeffect.com to grab your copy, and inspiration will spark within 10 minutes. Back to the interview. Yeah, it is, because it makes people proud, and that's what typically drives people, not a salary or anything else, or a big car.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that, and it goes back to what it actually takes to create fans rather than just customers. I mean, it prevents so many other issues in a company if you have that culture. What I also wanted to ask about where you are today, you talked a couple of times now about having 24, 25 people at a sizable customer base. And although, of course, these customers are small businesses, I still see sort of leverage. And I don't think what I hear between the lines is that you try to grow your business by the number of, and be proud by the number of people. It's more about the number of customers you can serve in an most effective way possible. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say, it's efficiency, right? So for us, we do have 16,000 customers. We have about 170,000 people a month that use our system. So to build a product, and this goes back to our product and development team, Steve and Sylvester are my teammates there. We build a product that is so easy to use that like you don't necessarily need a lot of help, right? That's the goal is that, and that was one of the things that going back 22 years ago to those accountants and CPAs and business owners, they wanted something that was easy and reliable. Those were their two words that they said.
Yeah.
And those words stuck with me, and they're still there today. And so when we build it, it's easy. Like if you're not going to make a product that's hard to use, nobody's going to use it. But then on top of that, for the people that do need help, we have like literally, Ton, a world-class customer support system or people. So we have 5 people in support, and like we actually answer the phone when you call, believe it or not. Like we will respond to your emails in minutes. We have chat we're responsive like almost instantly with. So our customers are taken care of extremely well in that way. And those are the things you have to do, and you got to put that customer first. And yeah, that's just the name of the game.
But these values about the product and what the customer expected from the product, it's not only product at the end, because it's easy, is also how easy it is to do business with you.
Yeah.
Reliability is about not only about it, the product doesn't crash, but it's also if I have a question, I get reliably a quick answer. All of these things become part of the whole experience. So I like that.
Oh no, it's a big deal, and we pride ourselves on both. We have it's about a 4.9 rating in our customer support,
I saw that.
which is world class.
Yeah.
Yeah, I pump those guys up all the time. I'm super proud of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Noah's their leader.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that brings me to another question around competition, because, of course, around that time, there were not maybe a lot of companies or vendors that were doing timesheets specifically. I know at least that there were a good number of ones that were part of an ERP, a larger suite, which is maybe too big for the small businesses. But today there are, of course, more competitors.
Yeah.
What do you actually do to stand out, and how do you keep that going?
Yeah, that's an extremely good question, Tan. So you are correct. There are, depending on how you count them, up to dozens of competitors for us right now.
Yeah,
Yeah, in the beginning, there might have been like two or three decent ones, but now there's a lot. I mean, for us, the differentiators are, going back to our product. The product works really well. It's easy for people to onboard and use compared to competition. Our customer support is really extremely high compared to our some of our competitors don't even offer it or they charge for it. Um, Going back to, even SEO, we're still on top of SEO. That's still a thing nowadays. So to make sure our product is positioned properly, that we're talking to customers in the way that they need to be talked to, with like in our marketing materials,
yeah,
um, going and making sure that we're in all the places that our customer hangs out, right? So
yeah,
where do customers hang out? They're definitely doing web searches. They're doing using AI to do their research, their product research. There are several marketplaces on the web, like the G2s of the world. They're searching through there. They're asking their accountants, and that's another thing we're working on too is CPAs. We're getting to the point to where we're bringing having CPAs coming on board, and they're actually recommending our product to their customers because it makes the CPA life easier.
yeah,
So
exactly.
that's a big deal. And then just the word of mouth thing too. Better we make the product, the better that flywheel just keeps gaining traction and keeps
Yeah,
accelerating.
yeah,
So it's really it's a bunch of little things that
yeah.
that make us different. It's not one or two individual little things.
No, but that's creating moats because if it was one thing, everybody would focus on that. But it
Exactly.
is just the little thing that always compound over time, and if you miss one or two of those components, it all falls apart.
Yeah, it is literally dozens of different things.
Exactly, exactly. Now, what I recently also saw is that you added payroll.
Yes,
Now, I know that, of course, when you come from the timesheet space, it's an isolated area. It's pretty overseeable. It's pretty easy then also to focus on keeping it reliable and simple. But then, of course, when you expand it with payroll, yeah, you end up in a completely different ballgame.
it
Why
is.
did you
Yeah.
took that decision?
So it was been a long time coming. We've literally been thinking about it for probably close to 10 years, or I've been thinking about it at least. So it really comes from there's probably three things that go into that. One is we do time tracking, right? So what's the very next thing that happens after time tracking? Payroll, right?
Yeah,
So every single customer of ours is taking the time that they're using, that they're collecting in our system and running payroll. And they're exporting it, they're doing connections, they're faxing it to people, the time. So we're like, why don't we just build product rate or build payroll rate into the product for them?
yeah,
So that's what we did. We actually partnered with a payroll. It's called embedded payroll. So we
yeah.
leveraged a professional payroll company to bring payroll into our system. We did not want to build it from scratch.
Ah, okay.
That is for one, it's never really been done by anybody our size, but it's payroll is its own world.
I
And
know.
it
That's why
is,
I'm
yeah.
asking.
So we decided to partner
Ah, okay.
with the company for that, and they've been phenomenal. We are able to leverage, it just comes pre-built. But it's a seamless user experience. So it's not like a white label. It's literally in our product. We use API calls and web
Yeah,
screens, and the process works extremely smoothly. Second one is our customers were asking for it. They were asking,
yeah,
build payroll for us. And then third, we were seeing that some of our customers that a pretty good amount of our customers that were leaving for a
yeah,
time tracking and payroll solution.
yeah.
So, you put those three things together, it's a no-brainer, build payroll.
Exactly. No, but I mean, thanks for clearing it up because, as you say, payroll is its own world, and it takes your whole R&D to such a different Yeah, to such a different organization with different
Yeah.
skills. Every year you have to follow and track all the regulations that are changing all the time, which is not done or not at least at that scale for timesheets. So that's why I was interested in. It's a classic example of built by or partner, and you decided to go partner because it is their core business, not yours. But together you create sort of a 1 + 1 = 3 effect. Good. I mean, I have to kind of respect time as well. I got so many more questions for you to move on, but I have to respect time. Uh, Scaling the company then. What has been the most counterintuitive level that you've seen or experienced with regards to scaling the business to where you are right now?
So the most counterintuitive. Okay, that's an interesting question. I've never been asked that before. Um,
What surprised you, or yeah, what did you
yeah, what
expect and
surprised me? So
what did
I
it turn
would
out to be?
say probably the biggest thing that surprised me. I would actually go to this is that, we started out with time tracking only.
Mhm.
We like as you just said, we built on payroll. We are now in a place to where we're seeing our customer base. This was I don't know, it was somewhat of a surprise, but not so much. But we're seeing our customers want more out of our system. So, we built payroll. We have a simple scheduling, like employee scheduling system, but they're asking for that to be improved. So we're improving that. But the biggest
Logical.
thing that we're doing now is we're building HR tools right into our system. So you could use on the clock as a complete people stack, all the way from hiring to scheduling to payroll to your HR functions, one-on-one meetings, ENPS, team wellness, team happiness, all the way to retirement. So we're looking to build, and we're not looking to, but we are building uh, a, I would call it a simple HR time tracking, scheduling, and payroll solution for our customers. So what I started and thought was just going to be time tracking has really turned out to be this it's like a people tool for your business. So it handles everything in your people stack.
Yeah.
And that's what our customers are looking for and needing. And some of them, the funny thing is that some of them don't even know they need it. But when you talk to them, they're like, oh, yeah, I need that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of one of those things that was a little bit unexpected, and that's just been a great twist and a great kind of not a side project, but a pivot for us, I would say.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah,
exactly.
kind of going to this almost like a four product offering from coming from a one product offering.
Yeah.
So it's been challenging, but it's been really fun, and we're getting a lot of excitement and a lot
Mhm.
of traction with our customers from that.
Yeah, it's the classic, you win the customer and then ideally you want to upsell them something so that things can keep growing. What you just said, it was challenging. What's been most challenging in this respect? Is there one thing that sticks out?
It's in respect to like the four things we're building, or just in general?
No, no, in respect to expanding the portfolio from one
Uh,
product to
Yeah,
four now.
yeah, four. So I'd say just the fact that we're going from one to four, it's like a whole new paradigm, right? Because you got to think about the way you market, the way you even talk about your product. Like we used to be time tracking or time clock, but now are we like an HRS? Are we HRCM? Are we human capital? There's all these things that people call somebody that we're becoming. So from a marketing perspective, from a sales and business development perspective, going from a one product model to a four product model, we're in the midst of that right now. I'm going to be very honest. We don't have a complete uh, view on exactly how we're going to frame it and structure it all, but we're all aware of it and we're all thinking on it. And I'm 100% sure we're all going to figure it out. So that's probably the biggest challenge that I think we've had and that we're going to
Yeah.
have. But I'm like super excited about it. I view this challenge as exactly that, as a challenge, and I love challenges. So we're going to
Yeah.
figure it out.
You always need to have that next big thing, right? But I
Yeah.
see you and hear you because I mean it's so common. Last question then. From all your experience now building on the clock, What would be a do and what would be a don't that you'd like to share with other tech entrepreneurs that aspire to do something
Oh
similar?
yeah. So a do, I'd say for, anybody kind of starting out, or even if you're already in any type of SaaS business, uh, I'd say that the biggest do is, for one, talk to your customers. Like, especially if you're brand new and you're trying to start up a service or a product for customers, even if they're not customers yet, go out and talk to people, like literally dozens and dozens of people, understand what their root core problem is. I see so many young entrepreneurs, they come up with an idea or they listen to somebody else and they got an idea and they don't really do much validation on it. They just start building and then they get months in, and I've seen this several times, and then they realize, oh, well, there's nobody to buy this. Well, guess what? You didn't talk to the people, right?
Exactly.
So talk to the customer, validate the problem, write it down, study it, know it by heart. Like literally, you need to know what the core problem is. And it's not the
Yeah.
surface level problems. It's the ones that are one or two deep. That's the biggest do.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the biggest problem that I see most young entrepreneurs making,
Yeah.
or any entrepreneurs, really.
Yeah.
So talk to the customer, know the problem. That's the do. The don't, um, I would probably say the biggest don't is don't wait to scale. So for us, we waited a little bit to start scaling. There was just some hangups that I had to get over, which we talked about earlier. So I would say definitely scale early, and the biggest thing is also with scaling, plan for scaling from day one. That's another big mistake I see people do. They start the business and they'll start everything like super scrappy, and that's sometimes great. That works. You get things done, but you can't remain scrappy for like 10 years.
Nope. Nope.
You have to systematize things. You have to build processes. You have to have the people on board that can help you to do this. And also know that you're not capable of everything and you don't know everything. So bring capable people on board that can complement you
Yeah.
and get them bought into your vision. Make sure that we're all lined up and that we're all heading towards the same goal and start scaling soon, but build for scale. That would be my biggest thing. I've seen a lot of companies fall apart because they did not build the scale. So
Yeah.
they get a couple years in and everything falls apart because it was built on sticky notes. You can't do that. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing this. Thank you for sharing all the wisdom,
Thank
the
you.
anecdotes. Where can people go to find out more about On the Clock or to say hi to
Uh,
you?
the simplest way is to go to ontheclock.com to find out about
Yeah.
us, our product, and you can read a little bit about me and our team on the Meet Us and About Us pages. You can find me on LinkedIn, Dean Mathews, 1T.
Exactly.
Those are probably the best ways. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And I'll continue to follow you in the next coming years. Let's do this again
Yeah.
in 5 years' time.
Agreed, Ton, you too. And I would say to all you listeners out there, if you're not subscribed, I clicked subscribed a few weeks ago and he's on my playlist. So definitely subscribe to him. You've got some really good stuff out there. I think like 8 years, 400 almost episodes. That's pretty awesome. So definitely,
Exactly.
guys, click subscribe.
Okay. Thank you very much for the plug.
Yes. Thank you, Ton.
And this wraps up my conversation with Dean Mathews, founder and CEO at On The Clock. If you got value from this episode, please share it with other SaaS founders who need to hear this as well. And if you got 10 seconds, a quick rating or review on Apple Podcasts will help more people to find these conversations. Thank you for listening to the Remarkable SaaS podcast. If you want more insights like this, subscribe to my daily email, Espresso with Ton. It's a 2-minute shot of clarity for SaaS founders who want to create pull, not push. You can sign up, along with getting my book, at valueinspiration.com. See you in the next episode.